There we go. So if when you're not speaking, if you wouldn't mind putting your phone on that mute, that would be best to minimize any background noise. Like I said, I will put in the chat the details as it relates to the link for, again, as you heard, Nick did it via mail. I did it via online, and mine came, I guess, a little quicker than the U.S. mail did. So, but so our first question is from Ken, and thank you very much, Ken, for your question. Ken Gibson. He's asking about. He's going through a process. Ken's got 100 that he's in the process of doing a restoration on. He's probably. Are you in double digits with restorations of cars now, Healey's right now, Ken?
Not even close. No.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
But you've done multiples, so.
Yep.
But so he's got some questions regarding. The sensitivity of the fuel pump, and then suggestions for transmission fluid and engine fluid, and was originally thinking about 50-40 semi-synthetic for the engine. So why don't we open that up to our experts as it relates to thoughts, as it relates to transmission fluid and engine oil. I mean, I guess my first point is generally, 30 weight was what was recommended by the business. And what
Right.
I use 50-40. I use VR 2050 racing oil, Valvoline racing oil, with zinc. I had originally my 100, the one that there is in background. I was, when it first came from the UK after it was restored, I was using Castrol GTX, and it leaked like a sieve. And as soon as I went to the zinc, it made it significantly better. Didn't stop the leaks, but it made it significantly better. Anyone else have thought? Please go ahead.
What was the brand on the 2050?
Valvoline.
Oh, yeah.
VR1 2050. I know Brad Penn, makes with a high concentration of zinc, but other thoughts of other members as it relates to motor oil and engine transmission oil? Boy, with dead silence. That's not like you got. Yeah, somebody must be on mute. That's why we can't hear you.
Many years ago, everybody talks about having to use a single grade oil in the overdrive units, or not using a 90 weight oil in overdrive units. Triumph TR6s, for example, use 90 weight oil in the gearbox, and they use the same overdrive unit, which I found very confusing. So I actually wrote to Laycock de Normanville before they went out of business, and I got a reply back, and their reply said, we don't determine what oil is used in our overdrive units. It is determined by the gearbox manufacturer. And the gearbox, the overdrives work perfectly with all oils.
With all oils, huh?
Yep. So that's what they said.
Okay, so what do you recommend in the transmission?
I use the same as Pete does. I use Valvoline 2050 racing oil, VR1 racing oil.
In the transmission?
No, in the motor.
And in the gearbox.
Oh, you're using both. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Works perfectly.
Huh. Okay.
There have been some concerns. People have had some concerns about the gearbox, the overdrive centrifuging the salts or the lubricants out of the EP oils, and that does happen to a degree. You get a layer of phosphorus salts or whatever they are inside the annulus, but it doesn't affect its operation.
Okay,
now, what I always read about, I agree with Pete and Mike about the VR1, which you can get on Amazon. Sometimes they have it on special at O'Reilly Auto. But I always read that you wanted to use a 30 weight, straight 30 non-detergent in the transmission, because a detergent motor, detergent oil would keep the metal parts, the shavings in suspension, and wear away your transmission, where if it was non-detergent, it would settle to the bottom, and when you drained your oil out, your transmission oil, it would all go away. And I assume you might be able to do the same thing if you, well, it wouldn't help your brass parts. I was thinking of a magnetic bottom on your oil, your transmission drain. But I've always used just straight 30 weight HD in the transmissions of both the Big Healy and the Bug Eye, and I've always had good luck with it.
Yeah, it's interesting, Michael, saying that you're using the Valvoline VR1 on both.
Well, it's never caused me any problems.
Okay.
There was also a bit of discussion about engine oils with additives damaging the brass synchro cones. I've taken an awful lot of gearboxes apart with all sorts of oils in them, and I've never seen any evidence of that, although I have heard from people who run Porsches that that has been a problem. I suspect it might be something to do with the temperature that the gearbox gets up to.
Okay.
Porsche gearboxes get hot.
Well,
Hotter
I
than
do
Healy
know-
ones?
Well, I do
Healey's
know-
don't get hot compared to Porsche gearboxes.
Really? Okay.
Well, I do know for a fact that zinc additives are not the way to go. I mean, as a separate additive into the oil, because they don't mix in properly.
Yeah, because you
Well,
can
like
buy
Pete said-
ZDDP separately.
Right. If the oil comes from the manufacturer with the zinc in it, it's fine. But you can get separate zinc additive, and that's not worth the effort or the money.
Yeah, castor oil now has it with the zinc in it now.
Yeah.
2050 or whatever.
Do they? Castrol does?
It's
Okay.
called, I think it's called Classic.
Okay.
It's made specifically for older cars.
Well, I just bought some more because I just changed the oil in my BJ8. I just bought some more. I paid $9 a quart for it. So if as Rick mentioned, Amazon sent last year, Napa ran a special where it was half price. So I bought 30 quarts last year at $5 a quart, and that was a nice buy. But I've not seen that same special this year.
Yeah, I just bought a couple 5-gallon jugs of it on Amazon, and it was on some sort of sale.
5 gallons.
I mean, 5 quarts.
Okay. I was gonna say that was
Sorry about
a
that.
big buy.
I was thinking ahead, Peter.
Well, the car's leak, you know.
That's right. And we had a question about leaking, so that's why you brought that up, Rick, right?
Peter,
Please,
what does the zinc do in the oil?
I'll leave that to some of the experts. Any thoughts on what the zinc actually does in the oil?
The zinc component used to be common in all motor oils because all the engines had flat tappet, which have a very, very high friction between the tappet and the camshaft. And when catalytic converters came into being, they found that the zinc compound was ruining the catalytic converters. So the oil manufacturers began to reduce the amount of zinc or ZDDP in the oils that we use in our cars. So as it got lower and lower and lower, all of a sudden camshafts began to wipe out very, very quickly. So Iskandarian and people like that began to think, what the hell's going on? Why are our cams wiping out so quickly? And they realized that it was the lack of zinc, which is a better lubricant under high pressures than typical oil would be, that was causing the problem. So classic cars like our Healey's with flat tappet engines need the zinc compound.
Thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, my shop is in a guy's warehouse that sells motor oils, and that's all he does. So
Now, does Mobiles sell a product with ZDDP, Bob?
no,
Okay.
no.
Now, do you,
But Dave stocks all kinds of motor oils.
Right.
He has Castrol and.
oh, does he?
and
Okay, yeah,
Valvoline and Everything else.
okay.
I
Just to
can
add
tell
to-
you
just to
that
add-
the other company that sells zinc is Lucas
Do they?
Oils.
Okay,
Yes, they have a classic car ZDDP oil.
So does Moss Motors.
oh, Moss sells one too? Okay,
Yeah, and I think Haggerty is Hemmings is beginning to make or advertise motor oils as well for classic cars.
yeah, so they're being private labeled. by
Yeah.
Somebody else making
Yeah.
it for them, obviously. Michael, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, just to add to what Bob said there, the big difference is that all modern engines use roller rockers and roller cams and roller lifters. And so that's why the issue has arisen for older engines, just to understand the difference.
Thank you.
I think the
Great.
zinc also helps in valve guides as well. You know, a lot of us have replaced valve guides with bronze ones, but the old steel of the valve guides also like that extra little lubrication.
I just
Yep.
remembered, I ordered my oil from Walmart.
Did you?
Yeah, and I just picked it up over in Walpole. And it
Wow,
was like the next day. And
Good.
the price was real good.
and that was Castrol, you said, with the
Yeah,
classic,
casserole, I think it was 2050 weight.
okay,
And yeah, it has that the zinc additive in it. It's called Castrol Classic, I believe.
okay. Thanks, Rich. It's good to know. So. Any other, so Ken, any other question, I know you were going through the process with, your wiring harness, and you said you support of a guy who puts wiring harnesses in aircraft, but any other questions you have regarding your restoration that we can maybe tackle?
Well, my very question I sent to you was, I'm really tempted to put a non-polarity sensitive inline fuel pump in as opposed to, a regular Healy fuel pump. And I was just wondering if anybody had any pros or cons in me doing that. Because, well, I've got a 26 Franklin, a 40 Packard, and a 51 Mercury, and I've put all inline fuel pumps on those things. And what I do is I usually put two of them in line.
In
And then
parallel? Yep.
And I put a toggle switch on the dashboard. If one fails, I just flip the switch to the other one.
Yeah, I'm using Facet fuel pumps in mine. And some cars have the backup, and other ones I'm just using them exclusively. And I've had good luck with them.
Is that an inline?
Yeah,
Okay. Facet fuel pumps, okay.
yeah, they're, $70, $80.
Okay.
So that's what I've got in
Really?
the last two sprites I've done, I've got Facets.
All right. Okay. I have one other thing, but I'll save that for the very end.
Okay. Anyone else have thoughts for Ken regarding fuel pumps?
The only thing I'd add is the facets can vibrate like heck and be noisy, so insulate them with a piece of rubber or something between the body and the pump itself. And you also want to make sure, I think the facets come in several different gallons per minute of periods of
PSI.
pressure. And yeah, you want to get, what is it, between 2 and 3? I believe it is.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. You get an American car and they put out 6, and all of a sudden you got float ball problems and leaks and maybe even fires in your engine compartment.
I seem to
Well,
recall we used facets in AHX 12 race car, and one thing a lot of people seem to miss on facets, they seem to be quite specific about the mounting angle of the pump. And I recall that it seems to be that there should be 45 degrees inlet at the bottom and something like 45 degrees. Anyone remember anything about that?
I have mine installed in my back bulkhead, in the behind the rear, or, by the rear axle.
Yeah, I think if you read the instructions carefully, they are quite specific about
Are
the
they?
installation angle. So do watch for that.
Well, I don't have single SUs in any of my cars. So I've got a backup facet in every single one of them, just in case. And they've never let me down, where the SUs have.
Well, in
Other
my 51 Mercury, I'm running dual Stromberg 97s on those, and you have to keep those under 3 pounds, so you can just put a regulator in line also.
And does it
Which I-
automatically regulate them?
Well, no, it's actually a dial indicator. You can
Oh,
dial
is it?
anywhere from 1
Okay.
pound up to 8 pounds. So,
Well, a couple of my cars, I do have toggle switches there and switch back and forth between the SU and the facet. But
Yep. Okay, thank you very much, guys.
you're welcome. Thank you. So, Bruce Olson, thanks for your question. Bruce has got that, that looks like a 6-cylinder behind you, right? That you're in the middle of a restoration on?
Yeah, BJ7.
BJ7. Oh, that's right. And so, Bruce has some questions regarding, as it relates to the interior on his BJ7. Said he's gotten a quote from Heritage, out in, you said, California, but they're actually in Vancouver.
Right, that they do all the work in California now. The guy called me from Vancouver and he said, well, we do the work down in Long Beach or something, place like that. So
Jeff Chrysler said he's doing it in Long Beach.
that's what the guy said. Yeah, yeah.
Heritage isn't Christ, well, are you doing Heritage or Heritage Classic?
Heritage, are there two different places?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, because Jeff Chrysler's in Vancouver.
But
Okay.
he's right way. He's not, he used to be with Heritage,
Oh, okay.
but Jeff Chrysler his shop is right way.
Okay,
So there is a Heritage and there is right way.
Okay. Well, I should probably check the other one then too.
so I just
Jeff
put.
does beautiful work.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he just done a Concourse 100, early 5300. And if you Google Jeff Chrysler, it's with GOFF. You'll get remember his father was one of the Concourse experts and restored a number of Healeys in North America. He was in Ontario, who unfortunately passed away a number of years ago. But yeah, Jeff does great work. And you also mentioned about John Skinner in the UK. I've certainly heard of them. I've never seen their work before done, but I did get a carpet kit, a carpet set for my BJ8 from Jeff Chrysler last year, and I was very pleased with the installation and the quality of the carpet set. It was far better than what I had originally in the car from Moss.
Mhm.
And Jeff did his father, when he was alive, had suggested that Jeff actually take the Heritage seat kit that I got and actually upholster the seats with it so that it was nice and done right. And he did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
And Bruce, that's what you said in your email, that was they were recommending is sending the seat bases to them and have them do it there.
Right.
yeah, they said it's really tricky and they do lots of Jags and Porsches and stuff. And they said the Healey's like one of the hardest seats to do. To just
Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did with Jeff. I sent him up all the pieces he needed, including the foam and everything that I got from Heritage, and they came out perfect.
Mhm. Great.
I'd just point out, I've got a carpet set from Skinner on order. And it's been on order for 3 months. So any of these places, everything automotive related and probably almost everything related is suffering from slowdowns and whatever else. So you might want to ask them if you're time sensitive, what their delivery times are going to be. They are doing a modified kit for my front carpets on the floor, but it's nothing really that involved, but word of warning, it might take a little bit longer than you expected if you're looking to get it in there next week or the week after.
Right. Oops.
So Bruce, I'm now sharing my screen. So this is Jeff's website. And I apologize for that. Yeah. So as Rick mentioned, Right Way Heritage Trimming is the name of his business.
Okay, so they split off from each other apparently, right? At some point, the Heritage Trim and Upholstery that's in California used to be together with them and they split up. Is that?
Well,
They
I think Jeff went out on his own.
I see.
Actually, I think Rich Chrysler, Jeff's dad, worked with Heritage and worked originally with Heritage Trimming. And then I believe that Rich went off on his own, and then if he didn't, then his son Jeff went off on his own. I think you're right, Peter. I think Jeff did work for Heritage for a while and then went off on his own.
Yeah, that's true. That was right around the time when I got my interior from them.
So Bruce, so it's rightwayheritagetrim.com is his
Okay.
email address. I mean, is the website.
Got it. Great.
Bruce,
thanks.
where do you live?
New Hampshire,
Okay.
Where in New Hampshire?
Bedford.
Okay.
Yep.
Bob,
Now,
you-
if
you
you
have
were
any
to
recommendation?
happen to buy a seat covering kit, I've had really good luck with Columbia auto seat covers in Lawrence. They've been doing Healy seat covers for years, going back to some of the concourse winners, and they are really, they put other seat covers I had bought elsewhere on my BJ7. They did a beautiful job. They are, as you said, they're very difficult to get to look right, but they did a beautiful job on mine. So if you end up buying a seat cover kit elsewhere, I would strongly recommend going to Columbia. Ask for Sal. Sal owns the shop, and their prices are reasonable, and they
Great.
do beautiful work.
Great. Thanks.
And
Yeah,
Rich,
from my BJ8, I got my Bruce. I got my kit from a Head for Healy's in the UK, and I had Mark's Upholstery in Foxborough, just south of the stadium. Did that, and he did an excellent job as well. But it's good that Lawrence would probably be closer for you than what
Sure.
Rick had mentioned.
Yep.
well, I've got an even closer spot for you. How about Seacoast, New Hampshire?
Yeah.
Just over the border from Massachusetts. Her name is Angel Eaton, and she was the person in charge of doing all the upholstery at LeBaron and Bonney before they closed. And she did all the interior in my 51 Mercury, and absolutely incredible work. Her name is Angel, and if you got a pen and paper, I'll give you the number.
Great.
603-944-8746.
Great.
But she was in charge of all of the upholstery work done at LeBaron and Bonney before they went out of business.
Great. Thank you.
And Bruce also had a question regarding Dynamat and for sound and heat reduction with that. And then he's asking if there's any other layers there. So anyone's have any thoughts as it relates to the use of Dynamat?
It's great.
Do you put the carpet directly on it, or do you put a, felt layer between, or when you just go right on top of it?
Right on top of it.
Okay.
I've done it in 2 cars. Works great.
Now, Ken, are you also using snaps to hold the carpet kit with cut out around the Dynamat and the holes for that? How are you applying the carpet kit?
You can put snaps on it, and depending on how thick a dynamat you get, you can just cut it out with a penknife so that the snaps come through. It's super easy to work with.
Right.
Great. Dave Berube, I believe you got your hand up. Do you have a question?
I guess I didn't realize I had my hand up. No, I don't.
Okay. You just wanted to be noticed, Dave, right?
I guess so.
Okay. Bruce, any other questions?
No, I think that's it for now. Thank you.
How far along are you on the restoration?
Well, I'm working on wiring and stuff now, and I wanted to get the dashboard. I'm redoing. I'm going to do a tan. Was originally it was you can sort of see the color. It's a California sage color as I'm going with, and I'm going to go with a tan interior. So not the stock. Originally, it was a British racing green with a black interior. So I'm recovering the dashboard, the dash panel with tan, and so I wanted to get ahead of things on that first, and then once I get that done, finish up all the wiring and stuff, and maybe even get the car running without the body on it, and then the next step is get all the final body work done. I have the rough body work done, but bring it somewhere to do the body work. And I was talking to a guy, I can't remember his name. Bob Britton had me meet with a guy from in New Hampshire.
Mark LeBlanc?
Yeah, Mark LeBlanc. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I talked to him, went to his shop, and looked like it might be a good possibility for that. So.
Well, he's doing a number of members' cars on here. That Dave Bevan out of Connecticut, his car is done. He hopes to have it ready by May or end of April. And it's been about a year and a half restoration that Mark's been doing on that car. And he's going with British Racing Green. And Mr. Easterbrook, you got your car up at Mark's right now too, don't you?
Yes, it just went up there 3-4 months ago, and I had before he came down to pick it up, I went up to a time that he had up there. Peter, I think you were there also, where he was demonstrating some of the body and paint work that he was doing. I was very, very impressed with that. So I'm
Last
looking forward to that.
Yep. Great. Do you know how far along he is with your car, Bob?
I don't. I know he's got it apart, and he's cataloging pieces. I'll be up to see him probably at the end of this month. Give folks an update.
Great. So Bruce, just a comment. So I've got a beige interior in my BJ8. It's British Racing Green. Beiges can be different shades of beige.
Right.
So you may want, it's different than black. So you may want to make sure you source anything that is leather from the same supplier,
Right.
because it conceivably can be different with different suppliers.
Mhm.
At least my experience. So, okay. Any other questions, Bruce?
Actually, one other question. I don't know if my tack came from a different source. That when I bought the car, the instruments weren't mounted in the dash, and the tack is sort of I don't know if it's rust. It got a little rust on the face, but it's different color of gray from the rest of my instruments. And I'm wondering if there's any way of getting around that, or do I just have to get another tack, or is there any solution for that issue where it's sort of a kind of more orangey color than the other instruments?
So do you think the tack needs the tack? Go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
That's all right, dude. I mean, Pete, go ahead.
So do you think it needs to be restored, Bruce?
Well, I mean, it works. I hooked it up and it works. It seems to work fine, but
You're looking at the face is the issue.
yeah, just the face, just the aesthetics of it looks different from the rest of the instruments. So
They,
yeah.
Bruce, they all did that.
Really?
Reason that the gauges in earlier cars, BJ7s in particular, and I can tell you because I have one, they all changed the color. They got a more, I guess, goldish tone or coppery tone than the silver that the gauge was originally done in. If you don't like it, you can have that face restored, but that would be the only solution to it. You can't wipe it down with any chemical that I know of or any compound that I know of that's going to bring it back to its original silver color. They all just kind of got that orangish tone to them as
Yeah,
they aged.
okay.
So
And maybe this one, maybe this came out of a different car, so it aged differently than the other instruments. I'm not sure why it was.
it was almost, the smaller instruments stayed more silvery than the larger faces did.
I see.
The speedometers and the tachometers.
Mhm. Okay.
So are you still running a standard distributor in points with the car, Bruce?
No, I've got a electronic,
Pertronics?
yeah, Petronics in there, yeah. But I do have the, the TAC, it runs off of the cable. It's not electronic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, there was a company in Long Island that was doing a lot of instrument restorations. Unfortunately, they had a major flood and have gone out. But is Momo, is that who you're using, Bob, or
MoMA.
MoMA in New
MoMA is
Mexico?
in Arizona.
Arizona.
Or, West Coast Instrument, West Coast Automotive Instrument out in Reseda, California. Those two
Bruce, if you
companies.
go onto our website, the members only section, where we have a thing there for suppliers.
Yep.
So there's a section in there for instruments.
Great.
But Nossinger's was the company that was local. Well, it was in Long Island, and unfortunately, they've gone out.
Okay. Thanks. That's it for me.
Okay, great. Ken, are you waving?
Yeah, yes,
Ken.
I'm waving. Speaking of gauges, I just saw something on one of the Healy pages on Facebook that a small group of guys in New York have taken on that business. They used to work for that Nissinger company. I don't have the name handy, but it's on one of the Healy pages. Someone just recently used them and said that they were very pleased.
Oh, okay.
So there is another place that started up in New York. It was on, I can't even remember which one of the Healy pages, but just in the last 2-3 days, I saw it on Facebook.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Was it on the New England Facebook page or another one, the national
No.
Facebook?
Yeah, it was one of the national Healy Facebook pages. I can't remember which one. I've got about 6 of them I follow.
And you don't recall the name?
I don't, but I could, after this, I could look up the info and forward it to you.
Okay. Yeah. If you don't mind, that'd be good to know.
Ken, which is the best of those Facebook pages you follow?
Actually, I think you were on it too. The one I saw it on, Rick.
I'm looking for a plug. It's the New England one that's the best one. It could be Sports and Classics. I'll look too.
Yeah, but it was on there. I'm pretty sure I could find it again, and I'll send it to Pete, and he can disseminate the info.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate that. So Dave, even though your hand's not up, but you did send down a question, so thank you very much for that. No one's ever on this call has ever asked this question before. Dave Berrubi's got an oil leak with his Healy.
No, now be specific, Pete.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, it's from the rear casing of the overdrive, where it connects or bolts onto the main part of the overdrive, or actually / transmission, right? My question was, is there just a gasket, or I've been reading a little bit about a brake. That's just a metal fitted piece, and there is no gasket on that side. So that's my question. Is there gaskets between the rear housing for the overdrive versus the main body of it?
So Mike Salter, yeah, I saw you just came
No
off. So
gasket. There's no gasket in there, just a jointing compound. People use Hylamar. I'm not a big fan of Hylamar. I use Permatex, but no, there was no gasket in there. And that's not where they usually leak in my experience. They usually leak at the next joint forward.
And I'm sorry, you repeat that, next joint? What do you mean?
If you go, the joint you're talking about, I believe, is where the brake ring is.
Yes,
inserted.
that's right.
That's
Correct.
right. Yeah, that's not normally a place where leakage occurs. So in my experience, there's only jointing compound in there, no gasket on either side of the brake ring. So it's possibly distorted or got something in there, or you're not put together correctly. But generally speaking, when they're put together correctly, they don't leak there. But they do tend to leak at the next joint forward, the next section forward. They have a tendency to get distorted there, and you can get leakage there where there is a gasket. Does that help?
So basically, that means pulling the transmission out, right, Michael?
Yeah, you can't do much to them with the transmission in place.
Right, I kind of figured that. Yeah, I had it rebuilt, oh gosh, now almost 15, 18 years ago.
You better get your money back.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah, sure, ho, ho, ho. So let's go along with that. Now, let me ask the question. All right, so I want to get it rebuilt. Not necessarily going to do that now, but what's the recommendation there for vendors?
Actually, if we could just step back for 1 second there. Have you actually tried tightening the nuts?
Yes, I have. Yep.
Okay.
And it might have had one that might have been, I won't say loose, but not as tight as the others. But
yeah.
I tightened them all up, and then I got my car up, and I'm looking at it, and a day later, I still got a drop of oil coming out right from the base of that rear casing.
Right. Yeah, you've got to take it out and redo that seal.
So then, my next question then, right? Rebuilding it. Vendors, any ideas, questions? I mean, suggestions?
Ken Beck, are you rebuilding transmissions? Ken's coming off mute.
He's working on it.
Ken's in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
So while he's tuning in, like I said, 18 years ago or so, I went to a place in Georgia. They actually rebuilt it. I have to go through my notes, my receipts to see who that was.
I had really good luck with Healey Surgeons down in Maryland. Yeah,
but I'm not sure. Is Bruce Phillips? Is he still rebuilding
He's not
transmissions?
doing transmissions any longer? No.
Oh, he isn't? Okay.
No. Kenny, you doing them?
Pete, we do the transmissions in-house. The overdrives we've been sending to Quantum.
So Dave, Quantum's in Connecticut. Esposito's guy's name there. Again, we've got that on our website. So Ken Beck is K&T Vintage Cars in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
And Quantum was the overdrive company or whatever. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what we.
Okay.
Because you're in Connecticut too, right, Dave?
I am indeed, Central Connecticut. That's correct.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Is Quantum answering the phone? Are they doing some work? A year ago, they were almost impossible to communicate with them.
Yeah, we just sent one up there about a week ago. So yeah, we've been in touch with them.
Okay.
That's good to know. Thanks, Ken.
Well, if I can butt in up here in Ontario at Auto Farm, we do a lot of overdrives and transmissions. And I just want to say, when we do an overdrive, I take that that joining plate and to pull the studs. And then now, and then I've got a big Jesus flat file, and file the face is flat. And it's amazing how much distortion and rough edges there is on them. And then we found by doing that it makes a big difference to whether they leak or not. It makes a big difference to whether they leak or not. And generally they don't leak after we've done that.
Thanks, Bob. That's good to know. Bob Abbott, you have anyone else in New England that you may be using?
No,
Okay.
do not.
Okay. So Dave, you got a couple options there. Bob Yule's up in Ontario and Ken's in Pennsylvania, and you got Quantum in Connecticut.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other questions, Dave?
Yep, I'm gonna continue with the oil, and everybody's gonna laugh. All right, laughs on me. So I had my engine rebuilt. Oh gosh, 2 years now. A little disappointed. It appears as though the seal on the timing chain cover, it appears to be leaking. Chances are, probably from what I'm reading, is you don't take the time to line it up quite right, and people tighten up the cover, and it doesn't line up quite right, and then causes the seal to wear out prematurely. And that's what I've read so far. But anyway, so, and again, I believe I know my answer. All right, pull the engine, and you can get to the timing chain cover. Okay, yeah, I get that. But then has people had luck, like kind of elevating the engine a little bit without taking it all the way out so you can get at the, I'm going to call it the harmonic balancer, which is what you have to take off to get to the timing chain cover? So that's my
Yes.
question.
Yes,
I'm
Dave,
sorry.
you can.
Okay,
You have to loosen the front, the bolts in the front motor mounts. I don't have to take them all the way out, but you have to loosen them quite a bit so that you can then jack the front of the engine up enough to get clearance from the cross member there.
yeah.
Then you
cross
can get the harmonic balancer off.
Yeah.
If you can get the nut off of the front of the harmonic balancer.
member. But I understand that, Bob, but yet, like I said, within 2 years, it was off, right? When it got
Okay.
when it got rebuilt. So
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, because I couldn't get it when I had. Oh, actually, when I picked up my engine from you, I tried to get that nut off and I couldn't. So the machine shop had to do it when that was 2 years ago. But I'm hoping that I would be able to get it off once I get to the point where I get the motor up. Okay.
Okay.
If you're going to be lifting the engine up, Bob didn't mention, make sure you turn the battery master switch off, because you can hit the starter solenoid connections and it gets quite exciting.
I'm sure. I keep that baby off all the time, actually. So yeah, you appreciate the comment though.
And then before you jack up the engine too much, make sure you disconnect the throttle linkage at the firewall.
Be good.
Thanks,
Friend-
Bob.
Noted.
A friend of mine gave me a tip that before tightening up all the bolts around the timing chain cover, to put the harmonic balancer in so it centers on the seal, and then tighten up the, secure the bolts afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think that was done when it was rebuilt properly, and I think that's why this 2-year-old seal is already worn out. But yeah, thank you.
Wow. How bad's it leaking, Dave?
Not that bad. I mean, I go out for a few 100-mile ride or whatever, and I still don't notice any oil difference in my dipstick. So not that much. It's just a mess. My car is pretty clean, and
Yeah.
the oil, gets down there, and then the fan blows it, and it's like blows it all over, tarnation underneath the car. Not a big deal, but I'm a neat Nick, and my engine bay is pretty clean, but the underneath of it is all oil.
That's your rust protection.
Yeah. You guys say that every time.
They actually leak when you're braking, because the oil flows forward into that cover, and that's when or downhill braking particularly, that's when the oil pours out.
Okay, I didn't actually realize that, but yeah, it's still, I guess
Makes
the
sense.
fan's still turning and it still gets blown. Right, yep, okay. Makes sense.
Are there other questions tonight?
Well,
Those are the-
Peter, this is not a question, but it's a sales pitch. Back this fall, some of you folks might know this, but from Springfield, Massachusetts, I dragged home a relative of a relative's really nice Sunbeam Talbot 90 convertible. It runs great. They want to sell it. The price is very reasonable. The only thing it needs to be roadworthy is a master cylinder and the wheel cylinders. The thing runs great. It was restored in the 90s. The last time it was on the road was 2015. And we're looking for between 8,000 and 9,000 as a starting point. It's a pretty neat car. I've got pictures of it running. I can send it to anybody who might be interested or knows somebody that might be interested.
Are those 4 cylinders, Ken?
Yes. Yeah. Nice car. No rust on it. Nice top. The upholstery has got some creature damage to it because it's been sitting for so long. The trafficators work on it. It's really a neat car.
And do you have the car right now? Is it in New York?
Yeah, I brought it to my shop to get it running for him. All I did was put battery cables on it, new fuel line and a fuel filter, and it literally turned over twice and fired right up, and I backed it out of the garage and drove it up and down the road.
There you go. Nice.
No brakes though, but Kip Motors in Texas have all the parts. And I'll deliver it for gas.
Wow, there's a deal.
Yep.
How about to
On
New
that-
Zealand?
On that fabulous trailer of yours.
Yeah. You got it.
Will you deliver to?
I don't need a winch to put this car on the trailer, Mike.
Wow, that's mean, Ken. Wow.
It's fair, actually.
Okay, well, thanks for the for sale advertisement on that Sunbeam Talbot. So if anyone in that's Ken Gypsum, if you're interested. If anyone has questions, give me a holler and I'll get you in touch with Ken.
Well, my email is easy. It's just kengypson@yahoo.com.
Great,
And the
thanks,
last thing, this is private to a certain degree. Rick, when this ends, would you please give me a call at home?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Is it good news or bad news?
Oh, no, just an update on Buffy and crew.
Oh, good.
Great.
Pete, I wanted to mention one more thing. Michael Salter has become very active on his blog lately, and he's come up with some good stuff. He did something on stainless steel brake lines and for Healy's. And what was the other one you just did, Mike?
Can't remember.
It was good though, whatever it was. So it's precision motor cars. What is
Well,
it?
it's under precision, but you just do a Google search for Michael's Austin-Healey blog.
And there's a lot of stuff on there that has been there for years.
Yeah.
But Mike's got active more recently, and there's a lot of good stuff there, so it's worth a look.
What else are you going to do in winter in Canada?
Well, that's why you're in New Zealand.
Yeah, well, true.
Mike, that's where all those little Canadians come from.
Yeah, that's right. I have a comment.
Please.
There was somebody mentioned very early on in in the session about bronze valve guides in Healey engines. This is one of my favorites. You should never put bronze valve guides in cast iron heads. There's a good blog post on my blog, Michael's Austin-Healey blog, about the problem, and it's a serious problem. I've known several people have destroyed engines by using bronze valve guides. Cast iron is the material to use. It works beautifully. It should never be replaced with bronze.
I think that was a big thing when people were doing no lead heads and they were inserting bronze valve guides at the same time.
The problem, briefly, the problem is that the rate of expansion of bronze is significantly faster and greater than the rate of expansion with heat of cast iron. So what actually happens, it's all right when everything's running fine, but if for some reason you overheat one cylinder or two cylinders, say you've got a lean mixture, you've got a block jet or something or other, this temperature in the exhaust port around the exhaust valve elevates, and the bronze expands so much that it actually distorts because of expansion, or it cracks the head. And then when the engine cools down a little bit, the bronze contracts and grabs the valve stem. And I've seen several engines destroyed by having bronze guides. Read the article on my blog. It's a little technical, but it is. I just cannot emphasize how important it is.
Thanks, Michael.
We've just gone through something like this with a customer who brought his motor to us, and we diagnosed the problems with it, told him what he needed, and of course then he wanted to know what it was going to cost. And once we told him that, he told us we were crazy. He had a buddy that could do it for a few $100s, and away he came, picked up the motor, took it to his buddy, and then he phoned and said, could he bring it back with all the machining done and have us put it together, because he didn't trust them to put it together. And he'd had his buddy do the cylinder head and put in bronze guides. And I told him that this was not a good idea, and for the same reasons that you just explained. And he said, I was full of shit. And his buddy had built race car engines all over the world and knew what he was doing. I said, okay, what do I know? So it's still going on.
So is the motor apart, or is he?
Oh no,
someone else put it together.
It's all apart, and he's still planning on bringing it back to us to put together, because he doesn't trust the people in his hometown to put it together.
Okay.
To go a little further on that, if somebody offers to put bronze exhaust guides in your engine, ask them what clearance they're going to use between the valve and the guide.
Yeah.
If you look in the factory workshop manual, it's about a 1/2 to 3/4 of a thousandth of an inch. It's not very much. And you'll find that the guy who's the expert on bronze valve guides says, well, they should be around 3 thou. Well, you're changing the valve guides because they're worn. Why are you putting 3 thou clearance in? It doesn't make sense at all.
Well, I know our local machine shop that we use all the time, so that if you're going to put bronze guides in, you've got to leave 4 or 5 thou clearance. And because the Healey head does not use particularly good stem seals, then you're going to have all kinds of oil usage.
Thanks for that.
I just looked up the coefficient of thermal expansion of cast iron is half of what it is of brass. So that explains it right there. Aluminum's a lot closer.
Thanks, Bruce.
Cast iron guides have got a very close expansion rate to that of cast iron heads.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Yep.
Hey, Mike, how did you ever make out with your getting measurements between the bases of your front shocks?
I got that. Thank you very much to all the people who replied. It was brilliant. I think it worked out to an average of 25 and 3/16 of an inch, if I remember correctly. I got quite a bit of variation.
23.
Yeah,
23
23. I can't remember
3/16?
exactly, but I got quite a bit of variation in the answers I got from people, but I
Yeah.
averaged it out.
Yeah, okay.
Great. Yeah,
But
that's
I
good.
really appreciate the answers that people came up with.
So Dave Walsh, you asked about synthetic 2050. In my understanding is it's not really synthetic oil really isn't recommended for our cars.
Really? Well, okay, that's the first I've heard of that. I'll switch over to the 2050.
Boy, does anyone else have any thoughts as it relates to synthetic for Heelys?
Well, you're not gonna get the zinc in a synthetic. I don't think there's anyone that's
Right.
doing it.
My understanding, I've heard or read an article about the fact that if you go full synthetic, you don't need zinc. And that's why when you guys were talking about the oils earlier, I was like, okay, why are they using zinc and I'm not? So, okay, I've got that. So don't go with synthetic, go with just regular standard oil with zinc, 2050 Valvoline.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
Or as you heard, David, there's a number of other people that are private labeling classic motor oils with zinc.
Uh-huh.
And it's recommended using that instead of one with the ZDDP additive.
I think somebody was saying Walmart's a good place to get the Valvoline cheap, $9.
Well,
worth.
no, well, I think that was, it wasn't, that was Rich. That was, he got the valve, he didn't, it wasn't Valvoline, you got Castrol, I think, wasn't it?
Oh, Castrol. Right.
Yeah, I was, I bought Valvoline the other day at Advance, but it was $9 a quart.
Yeah.
But I did a year ago.
This
I was mentioning
synthetic is about, I get it on Amazon for about $11 a quart. I've got about 6 quarts left in my case I buy. So I didn't realize, I thought synthetic was the best to get, but apparently
it is for your modern car. It isn't for
not
your
for the
60-year-old car.
Right. All right. Okay.
What's the problem with synthetic?
It will leak too badly. It's too thin. It seeks out any little crack or crevice that's in the engine. And if you think your engine leaks now, change it over to synthetic and watch it leak more.
And so Valvoline 2050 with zinc, does it have zinc in it?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's Valvoline
VR1 racing
2050.
oil.
I'm sorry, it's what? Valvoline.
VR1 racing oil.
And what's the number? D1, what did you say?
VR1.
Victor Roy 1.
Racing oil.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
And
thank you.
you can get it at a number of places. Again, I bought some the other day at Advance, but I know O'Reilly's carries it, and Napa had it a year ago, but they had a deal on it, but they're not running that special again now, or I haven't seen it this year at least.
I've been running Amsoil. Is that not, that's a synthetic though, right?
not sure.
Amsoil makes both.
I'm sorry, say
They
again?
make both.
I couldn't hear you.
They make both.
Oh, okay.
But I will tell you that I work at an auto parts store, and most of your non-synthetic does have some synthetic oil in it. Not all, but most brands do.
Well, is that what the semi-synthetics are?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
But again, the recommendation is not using synthetic at all, to use conventional motor oil 2050 with ZDDP or zinc.
Right. You don't want to use full synthetic.
Right, as Bob mentioned, it's going to leak too bad.
Yep.
And no zinc.
I mean, it does leak oil like as it always has, but it's not that bad. But I'll probably use up what I got, and I'll switch back over to the 2050 regular zinc additive. But thanks, fellas.
I just went back and looked at what I paid for it from Walmart. So it's a castor oil GTX Classic with high zinc content. It was $24 for a 5-quart bucket.
That's a good deal. That's,
Yeah, $6 a quart.
yeah.
Yeah.
Castor oil what classic?
$4.86. What's that?
Castor oil what classic?
Castrol GTX Classic. I just went online and there was
2050. And that has zinc in it, Rich?
yeah, it has the zinc and it's the same. What is it? The brand, the P something or other.
Brad Penn,
No, what you were saying, Pete, you can buy the
Valvoline.
additive.
Valvoline,
No, the zinc additive.
ZDDP.
Yeah, so that's what it has in it. Comes in the
Okay.
castor oil.
Very
Is Brad Penn a synthetic?
No,
It's
The
not.
they
semi-
probably make a synthetic, but they make a classic motor oil that's not.
It's a semi-synthetic. It's called Pen Grade now.
Is
Yeah.
it? Okay.
And that's all right?
Yes.
Okay.
And the other one is Lucas. They make a classic Z, with zinc in it also.
But as Bob Abbott mentioned, Hemmings is getting one private label, so another more people are getting them private label now. So I think that the naming terminology is classic is the thing that's important. Any other questions tonight? Bruce Ketchum, anything you want to add as president? Bruce, you're on mute if you're going to speak.
Yep, coming off mute, Peter. Yes, the driving season will be here before you know it. And I particularly want to reach out to people in Wing 1 and Wing 2, where we don't have strong representation right now at the leadership level. I'm interested in volunteers for anyone who can put a tour together or even a simple cars and coffee. And if you are interested in taking on a leadership role in those wings, I'd be more than happy to talk to you and share with you the ideas that we've used in some of the wings that have more active participation. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We need some volunteers. If you want to have some activity out in Wing 1 and 2, I strongly recommend give me a call. I'd be happy to work with you and see if we can't get some events there. I know that these wings cover a big territory, and it's not likely you're going to jump in the car and drive 60, 70 miles just to have coffee, but there are some interesting things you can do, and I would encourage you to step up, and there's plenty of help here in terms of advertising, and there's no mystery really to hosting these events. So please don't hesitate to become active if you have time and if you have the interest. We'd love to have you participate. That's all I have tonight, Peter. Thank you for asking.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, that would be good. So again, use our website regularly. We keep it current and active. We've got our updated calendar there. Hopefully you enjoyed the January Hen. We'll be having a February Hen. Hen stands for Healey Exhaust Notes. Will be coming out around the 25th of the month, and with updates as it relates to that. So there are, as Bruce mentioned, you were seeing more and more events coming up on the calendar. So this group will meet again because there were 28 days in February this year. We'll be again on the 13th of March. Same time, 7:00, and we'll send out a reminder a week in advance and then one the day before as it relates to that. So again, if you do have questions in advance, please feel free to submit those. And then we look forward, and again, thank you all for your participation tonight and involvement. And again, it sounds like we're gonna have a nice warm Thursday and Friday. So hopefully you can get out and enjoy your cars. For those that, Bruce Olson, whose car's apart, he won't be able to use his yet. I'm sorry about that, Bruce. But those of you got running cars, get out and use them. I mean, we've been so lucky this winter with such little snow. So if not any other questions, thank you all very much.
Okay.
Thanks, Peter.
Good night.
Good night.
Peter.
Thank you all. Bye.
Come on over, Peter, and we'll go out in my 26 Franklin.
Sounds good. Great.
Thanks, Peter. Good night.
Thank you all. Good night.